absolutely in trouble.
That's true. Oh, that's true.
We're back on here.
I think I was done, right?
Yeah, I
So
had
there
a
was,
question.
Kim had a question about stormwater.
Right, I think you were all set, right? I had two issues. The road project, I guess, a 10-year program, will that be brought to the capital improvement group at some point to look at and, or figure into the capital
Yeah.
plan? Or I would suggest we do think of doing that.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Whether it comes out of capital or whether it comes out of partly capital, partly operating. You know, we've had separate warrant articles.
Okay. Or at
Clearly,
least-
it's a
Yeah.
really good planning tool.
Yeah.
So Mike will, do you have your first meeting yet?
No.
I've given him the updated SIP, so he should be calling the meeting soon. And I'll make sure that he has whatever, you know, is still very, very drafted.
Yeah, at least I think the capital improvement group should see that and use it simply for a planning tool. Where the
Absolutely.
money comes from, we can decide
Yes,
later if
that's a good
where
point.
it goes from there.
Yeah.
And the second issue is, I'm very concerned about the police department and what's going on down there with the floor. And I see this, again, as death by 1,000 cuts. And we need to move and do something about this building because we are gonna dump more money after more money after more money into this place. And we'll patch it and it's gonna cost us a fortune. We need to do something.
What is your suggestion?
A new building, honestly, that's my suggestion. You know, and I know that's got all sorts of issues fraught with it, but, you know, there's water coming up under the building.
Yes, there
That's
is.
not gonna change.
Unless we do a drain, unless we
Well,
put it
even
in.
then,
That's
I'm
not
not
gonna
convinced about a
guarantee it.
drain, but so my feeling is, you know, that's another issue, what and where, but we need to address that and somehow begin to manage this, because otherwise, if we just sit back and say, well, we'll fix this at 4,000, we'll fix that, it's gonna cost us a fortune.
The
So
board made an attempt in January to grab that piece of land that abutted the Silver Street
Yeah,
lane.
We remember.
And so, I mean, that was voted down. I mean, so, you know, it's the will of the town.
sure.
There is another option that we're looking at. We don't know exactly where that's going to go. I mean, there's nothing to say or talk about just yet, but it's a tricky, it doesn't have a good solution. To say nothing of the possible, you know, the difficulty in trying to get it to go through the town.
Sorry, I don't want to bother you.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It went off up here too.
Yes,
yeah.
did.
It was for a zone alarm downstairs. So, you guys moving anything heavy or like
Well,
jumping around over there?
We're not a rowdy group.
Fair enough. No promise it's not gonna go off again.
Okay, all right.
It's all good for now.
Thanks.
Thank you. So anyway, I just wanna, you know, like for Mike to say, we need to, you
Yeah.
know, this
The
needs to
board
be
is really also sensitive about this. We don't see a lot of really good options. There's a piece of land over near, on Rollins Road, near Summersworth Road, that big field. You know, the land itself is like $190,000, some like that. And it would have to be, you have to bring utilities to it. It's not developed. So,
Wait, are you talking about near the Turcot Field, Summersworth Road?
well, not Turcot.
The one right
It's-
across,
it's-
not down the house on.
It used to have a little general store and a filling station apparently.
Oh, that?
Oh, right by the overpass.
Yeah, that's sorry,
Oh,
yes.
that's actually a good spot. However, do I not remember in the SIP plan last year that there was a prospective plan down the road to do trenching and water
Yes.
around this building?
Yes,
So it's either build a building or trench around this building.
well, you
Well,
could,
or
yeah, you could
choices.
argue that if we were to move out of this building entirely and wanted to sell it or wanted whatever, that the trenching would be to the general good regardless. But would it be nice to have, to understand what we were doing before we invested money in this building? Yes, yes.
So you need some engineering work.
Right, yeah, so tomorrow morning at 7, there will be an engineer here kind of looking around. And we'll be asking him questions like, how certain is he? I mean, I've had people tell me, you can't put a drainer on it, this building is gonna collapse, whatever.
No,
Okay,
It's
so
been-
are you in favor of a drain around the building? Just
I
curious.
remember what I had to go through in my house down on South Street, and it had the same problem.
Yes.
And the only solution we had was you have to put perimeter drains all around the outside, perimeter drains all around the inside, and drain it away. After you do that, things dry out.
But
But you gotta be thorough.
that is what we were advised to do by the space assessment folks, a couple of years ago in order to, if we were going to stay in this building.
Right.
Exactly what you just said. So I'm curious to see what the engineer says tomorrow. I suspect they'll say something similar.
Is it HTA?
No, it's Civil Consultants. It was Norm across the river, South
Yeah.
Clover, yeah. So I think Norm Giroux arranged to have them come. So it's a preliminary assessment from an engineer. It's the first one, it may not be the last.
But could I ask? a question?
Sure.
The building next door,
Yes,
is that condemned?
it is not condemned, which has a official legal meaning, but what we have done is, at some point early on, we realized that when the garbage had been, there was nobody in it apparently, the garbage was left outside, and then someone told us that one of the doors was open, or it looked like it was ajar. So we sent Chief Ducharme, and in fact it was, so he could just walk in, because it was accessible to him. He did an assessment, he came back and said, spoke to Tom Clark, and they advised us to put the notice, so it's not condemned, it just says that nobody can live there unless it passes an occupancy permit, which means it has to come up to all kinds of code standards. And we also sent the owner a letter with regard to the garbage, which he did have someone removed. And it said something about, we expect you to resolve the issue, I don't know, whatever. We're now following up in that last paragraph with the owner. We're also looking at that for other reasons, which you may be able to decide, or may be able to guess. We're still, we're just trying to, we have, there are two paths that we're pursuing. One is just the building itself, whether we were interested in it or not. And the second is it something we might be interested in?
I know we shut the water off a while ago.
Did you?
And all of it. So we're not gonna do this.
Well, that's good.
Is that for sale, that building for sale?
Yes.
You wanna buy it?
No, I'm just thinking, is it worthwhile to buy it, tear it down, and use the property?
150,000 is a going
I
price.
bet you can make an offer on that.
Yes.
Well, they denied $150,000. They refused $150,000 cash offer about 2 months ago. At that point, it was going for over $200,000. Its assessed value is quite unbelievable. I don't remember exactly what it is. So I just saw too that it's $150,000. So all I can say is it's on the, we're doing stuff, but who knows what will come of it.
No, we're more concerned about the heating floor in
Yeah.
the
Can I,
police department.
as long as it's come up, can I ask them, what does the budget committee think about $150,000 for that thing?
Depends on what you're gonna do with it afterwards.
If you knock it down
Raise it. Yeah,
and,
raise it,
and start fresh.
raise it. Yeah, that would be
Just
the
turn
plan.
it into a parking lot.
No, this is where you should be putting a new police station,
Yeah.
administration,
So do you think
whatever.
that plan would sell, $150,000 for that?
Is there enough room there to put a?
Well,
heating
there are
unit?
things,
Well,
you have to understand that we now have some abutting property, so it opens up more possibilities, right?
Mhm.
So,
But also you can go 2 floors if you needed to with stuff that the public didn't have to go into on the second floor. I mean, like private offices or something that you would need, as long as your first floor is available without, like handicap accessible. Then I think, yeah, that would be the ideal case.
so,
Is that the
yeah.
appraisal on it?
No, there's an assessed value of over, I don't know about the appraisal, there's an assessed value of, it's $250,000 or something.
So, shouldn't it be reappraised based on condition?
We're not quite there yet. I mean, we're not there yet.
I don't
but
think
it
that was
hasn't been appraised.
good for
I
the
mean,
town to
that's-
change the appraisal to be the one who's going to buy it.
Mm.
Isn't that
Not
kind
the
of like back?
assessment, not the assessment, but a bank appraisal for what the real value of the property is before you say, yeah, we'll give you 150.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I see what you meant. I thought you wanted
Not
to change
us,
the tax.
not the
rate.
town appraising it, but to have a bank do an appraisal on it.
You'd have to anyway, wouldn't you? If it
Yeah,
was-
we
it was some kind of
haven't,
a,
you know, we're exploring a number of different things that, again, because we're concerned anyway, so so we're exploring some things in that way to see what do we need to do in order to make that building safe if it's going to remain a building, and then there's the other issue. And so budget committee then would not fall over dead
Well,
if the town were to make $150,000 offer.
for the purposes of acquiring the building to raise it with
Yeah, yeah,
something else.
yes, yes.
Max.
Bill, I would certainly be in favor of something like that, and again, the police department is the critical thing, but we still have the town offices here. And that remains a problem, because we're in this building, and the foundation underneath it is questionable, and we have no insulation, and we have heating bills and everything else that, you know, those again are issues that need to be addressed. I think the police department is the critical one, but still, and that's why I'm thinking, you know, that there was some thought of doing, you know, like a town complex with town hall and police and I don't know, even fire at some point, all together in a new building, because a new building just makes sense. I mean, some of you know, when I was in Portsmouth, we rehabbed the old hospital down there, and it looks nice, it's pretty, but you lift these tiles and it's just, all the old stuff is up there. And you still have the old problems, it doesn't get any better. So my feeling, and this is just me personally, is, you know, start new. And because we will constantly be spending more money on fixing this and repairing that, and I think it's more cost effective to go new. And if we can get that property and do something new, I think great. But again, that's just me.
Well, everything that's new today is gonna be old tomorrow.
True.
And need new stuff.
Sure.
And the useful life of most public buildings is about 20 years. So
We're long over.
today
Well,
is
what do
brand
we do
new,
on that one?
spanking new. In 20 years, we gotta replace it.
I want to see something neat, go see that new Dover Police Department.
wow, that's awesome.
That is something, they did it right, you know,
We spent a lot of money.
they did, but,
Well, that's the point.
yeah,
It-
you get what you pay for.
Yes,
Right.
and if you don't do it right, you're constantly chasing after yourself, which you see with this building.
Yes.
Without the insulation, there was a reluctance at that time not to go back to the town for more money. And so the boiler wasn't right-sized, the insulation wasn't done, there were a number of things that got shortchanged. And so, we live with that. And so it's sort of pay me now or pay me later, and so anyway, we're not gonna solve that problem, but I really appreciate that feedback, because it will help the board maybe, see if we wanna act more quickly. on
I
some
think
things.
to solve this problem of subsurface problems, you're gonna need something a little bit more than, yep, looks like your floor is heating from the engineer. They're gonna have to do test forms and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, but they've already done mold testing and all of that too, right?
I don't know what's been done.
That's several years ago, I believe, that they had.
And we would never-
And it was,
Yeah,
How would we
I mean,
find it?
they had someone come in and do a test.
Okay, we
Are
need
you
to know who
talking
that
mold?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't,
Oh, the
they've
mold,
they've done a remediation 2 years ago?
Well, we do a maintenance every year.
Yeah, but still, you get water coming out, it's still gonna cause, I mean,
Yes,
it's just.
it's not helpful, it's not a good thing.
Keep happening until you completely drain it.
My other thing is, I wanna agree with Bill, is like, I believe that we should absolutely put the roads as a capital improvement regardless of how you do it, because it's a 10-year plan and that's what this is designed for, between 10 and 20 years. And I also think that we should start putting something about administration building / police department on there, because we know eventually we're going to start and have it be visible as soon as possible. And then it's easier to sell when it's been on a plan versus, you know, the
It is
next
on-
year.
It is on the plan. by
Was
the
it
way.
on the plan?
It is. The money didn't start until, I
It
don't know when.
didn't get funded yet, okay,
Yeah, so,
okay.
but, you know, when you're there, I don't know, who, you know, bring it up.
I know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not enough money anyway, it's 400,000.
No, yeah.
Just for informational services and informational purposes, I looked up what the property next door's tax assessed for, 152,100. So the asking price is very close to its tax assessment. So I think,
To offer something less.
I think 100,000 is a fair offer.
how much land is it?
It is 0.24 acres, quarter of an acre. But it is public water and public sewer.
And ideally, if that's this, which
Yes.
gives you so much more.
I'm done with the presentation, so whatever questions you have,
I have some. I see here in, it would have to do with road paving.
with what?
With road paving, page 8, 4312877, road maintenance and resurfacing.
Mhm.
It reflects a $8,500 increase, and the notes say, storm drain Lower Mills parking lot.
That explains the $7,400 outlay to date.
Okay.
So we worked on a storm drain, and then we did something with Lower Mills,
Okay,
so it was
just,
both
just,
about $3,500.
just so we understand, the Lower Mill Road belongs to the mills, it's not a town road.
The
We
storm-
have right of way.
The storm drain, it was our storm drain.
Storm
It
drain we
cost-
have to maintain.
The storm drain cost a sinkhole,
Right.
and so that's what we fixed.
Okay. Because they were paving parking lots, I'm going, town's not paying for that.
Well, it's within the Lower
Well,
Mills,
it was just,
whatever,
you know,
yeah.
4 feet by 4 feet, that's okay. But there was more paving that was done, and I just want to be sure everybody understands.
We-
Lower Mill Road is entirely owned by the town.
We're not entirely sure about that. We think we own about 12 feet of roadway through there.
Town plows that.
Yeah,
Does, but that's because we have a right of way.
yeah.
But if you look, you know the county house, which is that row of apartments, if you look, there's a yellow line that says no parking. And there was some question about, why did you put that line there? And they said, we surveyed our land, we own from the building to that yellow line, which is like that far away from the building. So they own Lower Mill Road.
I think, okay.
There may be a section where the town connects, but Lower Mill Road is definitely close to that. Yes,
So if we have $51,000 left, why did you budget more money if we haven't expended?
Well, the $32,000 from the overage from the Bear Road warrant article is going to come out of that. There's about $10,000 worth of patching, road patching that's going to come out of that. So that's, we wanted to be able to do as much patching as possible, and now we're not sure if we can use all of that $58,500 because of town hall. So we're kind of waiting. We may have to re-budget lines again, depending on what we hear about town hall. And if there's something like immediately that has to take place, you know, that isn't, we're not gonna be able to do a storm drain this year, but if there's something, you know, with regard to the getting access to the utility door, something that has to be done this year, we may need to re-budget maintenance in town hall out of this thing. But that $32,000 that maybe has reduced to $25,000 is coming out of this line. It's probably been spent right now, which is not through the end of June.
32,000 coming out.
Well, all right, so the Bear Road RFP that we accepted was
Oh,
for
the
200,
32,000.
was for $232,000, and the road warrant was $200.
Right, yes, I got all that.
Okay, so that $32,000 is coming out of there. May not be quite so much now, because we think the final invoice will be less, but we don't really know. I guess we haven't seen it, so we don't know. Did that answer the question? I did. Okay.
The paycheck service is a pretty significant increase. Can you explain why that is?
Tell us what page you're on to.
Uh,
What you're seeing.
two, three, four.
There was some payroll-related activity that we had to ask Paychecks to do, for which we had to pay extra. It had to do with some Paychecks from the police department. I don't remember the detail of exactly what it was.
So you don't have a contract for their service?
We do, for basic services. This thing, whatever it is that happened was outside of that, and so we ended up with an à la carte sort of expense in order to have them make the adjustment. They had to reissue W-2s or W-2s, I guess, for a certain number of folks. I'm not sure why. I don't know what happened.
How many employees do we have under the paychecks for own service?
The police, the transfer station attendant, all the employees, summer rec, you know, the counselors,
Fire,
fire.
which
yeah,
is
fire,
30.
Which is a lot.
or close to
Yeah.
30.
So it's a one-time cost then?
Yes.
I just had some questions that I had brought up last time, and I noticed that they were resolved, but now my question is you had on the conference and dues,
Do you have a page reference?
It's under executive, if that helps, right under, 10 lines under executive. So it should be right on page 1.
yeah, it's right on page 1.
290 is the last, 3 on the line.
Right, let me look and see. I'm just looking from my notes from last time because I had noticed that they did go back under. And I just wanted to know where the other $1,669 was redispersed to.
It was either the municipal association or Stratford Regional Planning Commission. It was not, it was an error, it should not have been expensed to that particular line, so we removed it and put it where it belonged.
Okay, that was my question on that.
Mhm.
And I noticed you also did the town clerk stipend and did the changes.
Yes, that was also an error, so we fixed that as well.
That was just, I'm just going back to the questions I had asked last time where I hadn't gotten any answers back until now. That was all. Other than that, I'm fine.
Kim?
The contingency line item, it was pretty significantly reduced. Can you tell me what costs were covered by that reduction?
Well, I would say just find the first, the rebudgeted lines and just total up until you get to the difference between the, I don't know specifically what went where, because we did some other lines that we rebudgeted up and down, but, so they were distributed across all of those yellow cells.
Is that gonna be a problem? That we don't have much in contingency anymore?
Well, it was contingency, right? So the contingency was the bare road overage that we're trying to deal with. So are
That was
we?
covered under the road resurfacing line item.
Yes, but we had to move some money there, so in order to allow us to do road patching, as well as some of the other things that just kind of come up for roads. And what the transfer station, the recycling, that was another piece.
So what you're saying is, instead of having it in a great big pot called contingency, you put it in the proper slot, which is a better budgeting
Yeah.
process, in my opinion, because if you're spending 20,000 in contingency, nobody knows what that is, or then you're showing
Right,
where
so
it
that,
is.
exactly. So for me, as a budgeting tool, I want to know where we've spent the money, so to
Exactly.
help with next year's planning.
Budgeting process,
Yeah.
sure.
So, am I happy that there's only $2,200 left in contingency? No. But that, it's kind of why we got cold feet over the culvert, because if there was any overage in that 70,000 road warrant, we weren't gonna be able to cover it from the budget, so.
You still have a contingency account, that's just you're only going to be able to add 2189 to it this year, is that correct?
Yeah, we
You
can.
still have contingencies beyond this.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean we have contingency?
Contingency is contingency not a revolving account?
Oh, we do not have a contingency fund.
Oops.
What they always did is they had one line called contingency, and that is where they grabbed the money whenever they had an overexpenditure or unexpected expenditure. But it always stayed in the account contingency, and nobody really knew what was in there, except that you spent 15,000 out of 20 or whatever
Right,
previously.
and to me, that
So
doesn't.
what it sounds to me is like you're removing it from there and redistributing it to the
Yes.
proper
Both the
account.
budgeting and the accounting,
Right.
so we,
And possibly next year, or in the fall, when you do your planning, knowing that when you move 20,000 to this resurfacing or something, you may know that you're not gonna need that next year, and you'd move that 20, you'd leave it to 20,000 in contingency, or whatever. I mean,
whatever,
I'm just saying,
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So we'll build the budget, so increase, when you look at your increase in budgeting from one year to the next, we're gonna base that on the authorized budget that was approved at town meeting. But we're using this revised budget for two reasons, both to allow us to operate and manage our funds appropriately, see where we're spending, and then so that when we do start the budgeting process, we don't just know where the appropriation sat, but also maybe we didn't do a good budgeting job, maybe, depending on how things happen. So, yes, that's what we're doing. But we don't have any other place to find money other than what's in this very budget. That's it. So which is why we went to the trouble of rebudgeting, so that when somebody comes to us and says, we need to do this, we say, well, we reduce that, you can't, it's not there.
Are there any other questions? Kim,
Of course.
more questions?
The town park system, did you get an update on that before you purchased it? Or can you explain why it's a higher cost than was proposed? And are there any additional costs next year, or is it a one-time cost?
That was a one-time training cost, and so we could have put it in a training line, but, so the contract was exactly as we expected it to be. It was also, we purchased $300 worth of training, or whatever it is, the overage, for that. So that, there is a maintenance, I mentioned it during the budget process, don't remember what it is, it's like in the hundreds, 200, 300, not sure. Excuse me.
Any more questions? Speak now, or we move on to another budget. Yes, Kim?
The heating costs for the highway shed, the heating costs are down right now, and you increased it expecting that they will be going up? Or can you explain why the increase in that?
The highway
Page 3,
shed?
4 lines from the bottom.
Heat, the highway shed, right? Well, it's propane heat, and if you recall, we didn't have a good distribution of costs for propane between the highway shed and the transfer station. And so we now, we asked our vendor to appropriately identify where the propane deliveries were going. And so, I think it was a question of not, we didn't really know, because we didn't have a full year with the propane going to the right location, and so we budgeted 5,000, and we were already, even with the additional money, we're not close to being overexpended, but I mean, we thought as long as we're doing rebudgeting, we might want to put some reserve in there, because, we're gonna, when we start the winter heating, we don't want to, we're sort of close to the bone, and so we wanted to make sure that we were gonna have sufficient funds. So that's why we did it. I mean, I'm not sure how else to respond.
Is the highway the only one that has the propane?
There's a
Fire
little,
fire station does too, right? A little bit.
it may have a little bit, it does have a little bit, and the transfer station, that little shed up on the top has a
little
propane
propane
thing.
heater.
And this is oil. Here.
This is oil, the fire station also has some oil in
Right.
it,
So do you lock in with your oil?
yes.
Do you still lock in with the school? And
Yes, we
and
just,
do a
we
joint?
just did that, we're at 18 cents over rack for next year. We were at 20 cents this year.
So last year we were, the cost was half of what we proposed for this year, but you expect it to be more than double, potentially.
Yeah, because when you look at the transfer station, so we had budgeted 250, we spent 1,812.
So is
So,
that the whole problem with figuring out where?
exactly, yeah.
Proper allocation. Keep going.
Contracted services.
Page.
Page.
Please.
5.
What is that? Oh, is that this, is this on the? Yep. So there's a $13,000 increase there. What are you anticipating?
They've already expended 21,000, 22,000, so,
What it was expended? Why-
well, we have, it has offsetting revenue,
Because
right?
it's a wash.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
so
Police,
it's,
right.
it's actually better than a
Police,
wash,
okay.
right?
Yep.
So the town retains some funds to cover.
I was pleased.
But however, it's a problem for us because we didn't budget it appropriately. So we're gonna have to be careful about that next year because again, we have to spend that money out of the expense appropriation. And so we have talked to Chief Ducharme and said, we really can't cover that overage from anywhere else. You're gonna have, hope you can figure this out within your own budget. So the money, that increase in contracted services, I think largely, if not all of it, came out of the patrol officer 4 line, just a little bit above that. So we had anticipated having a patrol officer for a certain number of months, and we didn't. We weren't able to fill the position. I can't remember when the first search was, but we were not able to fill that. He's found somebody, everybody really, really likes him. We've got lots of good thoughts about this man. His name is Brian Wheelans. We've hired him. He's starting at the police academy at the end of August. So we were able to reduce that line though and put it in the contracted services. So we'll just have to remember this next year.
I'd like to point out that you've expended 21,873, but you've received 31,980
Yeah.
in cash.
Yes.
So you're okay.
We're good, yes,
But
cash
this is the
flow.
first time I've seen it where the receipts exceeded the expenditures, if I look back through time.
It should
It's not a
always be
huge
that
amount
way.
because there's a lag issue, but that's what can kill you, is a lag in receivables.
I see. Well, we're receiving the monies, that's a good thing. So we've got offsetting revenue, so the cash flow is great, but it has a hit on the expense appropriation, so.
But why are we, if it's an offsetting, an account, why are we worried that that account doesn't show an expense? I don't understand why we have a problem with that.
Well,
Because
unless you
you
can
run
find
it on the
another
other
accounting,
side.
unless you can find another accounting mechanism, we have to spend, we were only authorized to spend whatever it is. What is it? $1,620,269,
Right.
period. And so we are paying those officers. We
But
get
you're
we
receiving
get,
money
we do,
for it.
yes, so we built it on the revenue side, not enough. And obviously not enough expense on the expense side, so it's a whoops. you
So
know.
what you're saying is, technically what you're saying is you have to put it way up there so you don't have this problem anymore.
Correct.
If you did
We can build-
25 this year, you need to put 50 next year, and if it isn't spent,
It
it
will.
isn't spent.
That's
It's
right,
only
as
for
long as
that.
we'll put the
Okay.
same offsetting revenue.
I gotcha.
So
Okay.
it won't have an impact on tax rates or anything, but
Okay.
it'll allow Chief Ducharme to manage that line
Okay,
without having to
because
I understand.
Nancy, the officers get paid and then they wait for the check from wherever
I
they did
get
the
that, but,
details, so.
I mean, I think probably nowadays, our budget's a little more tight and a little more difficult to have a one-line overspend. Bottom line, we used to, it just, at the end of the year, it was okay because it was under, based on everything throughout the budget. I understand what you're doing, and I praise you
We've
for
tried
doing what
not
you're
to
doing.
create a lot of fluff,
I get that, and I understand that, and that's a
so
good
that we
thing.
really know where we're spending our dollars,
Mhm.
and so we can, better plan and think about things, so.
Yeah.
But occasionally,
Occasionally.
we get caught short,
Life happens.
life happens.
More questions? You're satisfied. Go. Bill?
Your dispatch fees, we're at 90% now?
Mhm.
Is that what is, are those one-time costs or is it?
Yeah, I think so, I think they're
Okay,
annual
so-
or something or
okay.
whatever, so we're not concerned about that.
Okay.
That's all I know we're not concerned, I can't answer it any more
I
specifically.
believe in the same,
Yeah.
or semi-annual.
So I think we're in good shape.
That's it for me.
Nancy Daniel. The only thing that we're going to have to concern ourselves with, and it's a minor amount, but we've, as far as the animal control officer, I'm trying to find the page.
It's at the end of
It's under health, so it's sandwiched
Yeah,
in
'cause it's
between
not
the
in the
transfer
same- yeah.
station and welfare.
We've already overspent that, and we're halfway through the year. And I know that there are some offsetting money coming in, but year to
Which,
date.
I'm sorry, which line are you looking at?
Which page is it?
On page 9.
Oh, the shelter fee itself?
Yes. Yes, we're already overspent on that. And it's, he budgeted $500 for the dogs. And we're already up to $560.
Mhm.
Right.
Now, the thing is we're not getting all of that money back. We might eventually, hopefully. But to date, when I look at the revenues, we've only gotten $90 back.
Well, sometimes we don't get it back, right?
Correct.
But again, regardless of how much money we receive,
We
we
have to pay for it
We have to pay
somewhere.
for it here. Now, we're not really concerned about that whole category because we didn't have an animal control officer for a while, and so the police were covering it from, regular duties and regular salaries. And so we won't have, we will not have spent the animal control officer line. So it will
Okay, so
cover.
it'll
Yeah, it
take
will
some
cover
of that out.
yeah. I mean, so much so that we didn't think we had to move that around necessarily. It was kind of obvious to us that, so. We do have a new animal control officer too, if that, we lost Officer Matt, I don't remember his last name. He also started out as a police officer and he accepted his resignation, and it was also as animal control officer. So we hired a young woman, whose name escapes me, but very competent, very comfortable with animals, so we're happy with that. So we do have an animal control officer. Had that for about a couple of months maybe.
I don't see anybody looking like they're, that's it for the town?
I'm gonna
Okay.
close my machine.
That doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, Dennis, is yours quick and easy?
Yep.
If you don't mind?
Are you implying mine's not quick and easy?
Considering how many pages it is, yeah, I'm saying it's not quick and easy. So, water and sewer.
All right, anybody need a copy?
Is there an electronic version that went around or no?
Yes.
I send it out when I told you about
Yes.
the
But I do
meeting.
have
Yeah.
copies.
Did you get my
Early,
email
very
about
early on.
reminding
Very
you about the
early.
meeting? Yes, you did.
There
Yes.
was an attachment to Vern's first email about this meeting.
Bill, hello. Come back to us
Must have it here somewhere.
here.
Where's the initial?
There you go.
You don't need one.
I don't need one. I know what it says.
Anybody back there, Wawa?
No, I have one.
Everybody's all set, nobody cares? You
I
don't
can't
want
think
one?
we care.
Are you in the water district?
It was July 20th. Bill?
He's in the water
I
district.
have posted meeting, but I have no attachment.
Yeah, because I got the water and I got the sewer.
I don't either.
Did it go in your spam folder,
I
Mary?
don't.
I think so.
I put mine.
No, I have your water, I just don't drink it.
No, God, here it is.
I'm the
I'll send
first
you-
house
I'll
out
send it to you
chlorinated.
again, right?
Oh, yes.
Thank
I
you.
would-
Yeah,
I drink bottled water too.
yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Oh, we
got
gotta
it,
go.
never mind.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. It's there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dennis,
Okay, let me do this real quick. All right, the water is at 28.3%. And as you know, we got our new well already in, but it's not running yet. We have to do a 72-hour pump down test starting August 1st. Once that's completed, we have to hook it into the new well. We're still running the old well. So, there you
Where is it located?
go. It's General Sullivan
Oh,
right next to the
I
old one.
would never think
in your backyard.
Yeah, maybe I'll take the water. In my backyard.
And on the water, we repaired a lot of meters and replaced them. Anybody has any problem with their meters, let us know. We're gonna do a water leak detection identification survey. We're gonna do that, we're gonna have a company come in, and they're gonna walk around with some gadget, and they're gonna find out if there's water leaking someplace, if we are losing water. No
So
doubt
just stick
about it.
with two of these?
Yeah, yeah, and that's gonna cost us nothing, it's just repairing it. That's all. We've had all our hydrants painted, now if you see one that's not painted, call us, will you? And I think we've got them all. And that's it on water, any questions? Yes?
It's not really a question, it's, you know, I'm interested in the test that you just talked about to identify leakage. I mean, one of the things in the MS4 permit for stormwater is also identifying illegal discharge, blah, blah, blah. So if there are things that you're finding out that, you know, we should know about or that are related to our own storm system,
Oh, I'm sure.
pass it along.
You know the ponds in back of the garage, the old town garage? You know the ponds?
Okay, all right.
That always bothered me because you go down Pine Street, they come right under Vicaris.
Yes.
And that water runs all the time. As much of a drought as we have.
Yeah.
And I keep telling John, I says, go out and check it, maybe there's some chlorine or something. You know, if it's just,
You're
where does all this
suspecting, yeah,
water
yeah.
come from?
There's a lot of water in this town.
Jesus. No, really,
There is, yeah.
it's unbelievable. Yeah, if we do
So
find
what-
any,
yeah.
like I found something down here on Third Street, is it Third Street? The other day I was walking and I happened to look over and there was a puddle of water. So I get my feet in there and the ground is saturated. Now it's on this guy's lawn right near the road. And I said, what the heck is that? I said, maybe there's a water leak or something. So I had John check it out. He thought it was a sewer leak, like running from the main to the house. Come to find out, the guy has a sump pump. And he pumps it out there. on
And
this- And there's
on
a
the what?
puddle of water
On the where?
on the lawn.
On his lawn, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and it smells so bad, you know, it comes out of his cellar. He has water in his cellar, just like you guys,
Yeah.
you know? So what is that?
Groundwater shouldn't smell.
Groundwater, but it's stagnant,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
you
It's
know?
not moving.
stagnant.
Solid, yeah.
So just
So
to,
anyway.
just to come back, I mean, one of the things we can say in our annual report, when we're reporting on MS4 activities, is that we, you know, the Water District Commission did a blah, 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 you know, on these dates that look for illegal. So it'll be helpful to us, so yeah.
Oh,
do
yeah,
keep us-
definitely. There's a lot of water around here, like you said, you know?
And the only way you can really tell if it's like a leaking water line, take a sample, they have a
Yeah,
special
yeah,
little
chlorine.
packet. You put it in, if it turns pink, it's got chlorine in it, which
And that's,
groundwater
right,
doesn't
would not
have.
have.
Yeah, we'd love to know where all that water's going. you know?
Well, we tested, you know, Scott tested the discharge from our outfalls. But,
Did
yeah, he did, but I don't remember exactly what he tested for. We did the, sort of like the prudent minimum, So, and they were, you know, pretty much okay. I guess on a scale of 1 to 5, they were 1 or 2. So, so I don't remember if chlorine was one of the things he tested for, so.
Well, I'm
We didn't
wondering-
find phosphorus, for example,
Yeah.
which is just a good thing from an MS4 perspective.
I'm wondering if this house next door has any water in the cellar, you know? That would be
They
something.
have the same foundation issues this building
Yeah.
does, that building does, all of them.
You don't wanna buy something more. Anyways, so any questions on water? All right, we'll go to wastewater. Wastewater treatment plant. Right now, we're at 43.9% spent. And wastewater, we're gonna resettle one of the oxidation ditches, number 1 in October. We repaired all cracks in the offline ditch walls. That's one of our ditches that's not running right now. We're gonna do some preventive maintenance on it. And we're gonna continue video inspecting our sewer lines on Prospect and Locust. And when we find problems, we're gonna reline them. Then we're gonna replace 150 feet of perimeter fence at the wastewater facility. Old fence that's. And we're gonna recoat and resurface our chemical room walls and floors. And our pump station down here, we're working on putting a SCADA system in there, so if anything happens, it'll go right to John's phone. Well, right now, we don't have a SCADA system, so if something's.
What's that?
A SCADA system.
It's a remote control system.
It's a remote control, it's an app on your phone, so that you'll get it right away. Because if we have any, sometimes the pumps stop working, and if we have any overflows in there, they'll come right out of the building, you know, raw storage. So we had that problem once, you know, people throw diapers down their toilet, they throw rubber balls, bones,
Bacon grease.
bacon grease, and things just stop. So hopefully we'll have control of that. That's coming up. Any questions on sewer? Hopefully we're not looking at a rate increase this year. The revenues are coming in, you know? I
Are you
know don't.
finding more, well, we like it, of course, because we pay.
We've got a little problem on Main Street down here. This guy's got a leaky toilet. And he's already used over 100,000 gallons of water.
So do you
We
have
sent
a,
him a note, we sent him a letter. And
what are the means of
we're gonna
enforcement?
turn him off.
Well, if he doesn't.
Well,
He's got a disconnect in the mail now.
Yeah,
We went in there to recheck it and he used another 10,000 gallons
In what period of time?
holy smokes.
just after we,
There's nothing you need us to do, right? I mean, you're.
no.
You're just common courtesy letting us know.
Yeah, I'll let you know that because,
Okay.
he's fine. And he's not the most pleasant guy in this. But I'll work with anybody, you know, payment plan, anything like that.
I have a question, is he not paying his bills?
He's paying them just enough to get through. You have to be delinquent for 2 quarters and getting by, but now I think he's over that on that savings.
Oh, okay, so,
Maybe
you want to
anybody
repair his
get it.
toilet? He pays for
We
it.
told him about it. We were actually going into the house and told him, Robbie went in and get a water line upstairs. That's what we're gonna do. That's when your rate increases come in, you know, we can't control these people.
Are you finding that payment is, that you're getting better payment from folks on the
Yes,
whole
yes,
since the
yeah, we
recession?
have a very good payment plan, you know, people come in and pay. We're very relaxed with that. We will not turn it before,
No, but I know that, I'm just wondering, I mean, are you finding that there are fewer people in arrears?
Yes, right now, it's, yeah. People paying their bills.
It's
I
good.
hope they pay their taxes as well.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Any questions for water and sewer? Okay, school, you're up. Can I have this, by the way?
Sure can, but.
I'm sure that Cory will like this. So I'll scan it and email it to you. Ellen,
I did not bring printouts, and I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
I did not bring printouts, so I'm sorry. I see you have that one, I'm hoping you.
That's the only one I
You want me to
have.
do it?
No, I have one, I don't know what, I couldn't figure out what was, I printed one, but I don't know what, you sent two, and I'm not sure if I printed the right one.
That's right.
You've got the one that says July 19th.
No, I didn't print the draft one, I printed the other one, because it said draft on that.
That's fair, and that's a fair thing to do. All right, so before we start, this is our first budget meeting since Mr. Spencer passed away. And the school wants to send their thoughts to the board, that he sat here. I personally did not see eye to eye with Mr. Spencer very often, but we both had a very respectable relationship, and his passion and devotion will truly be missed by me personally and the school. So I wanted to start with that, and then we can dig right in. So, for the school, the reason there were so many attachments, at the June school board meeting, early June, we went through the budget that you had printed, the first budget that does not say draft. That's the one that I'm prepared to talk about, that we went over as a school board, and everything was good and good. However, a lot has changed since that board meeting. And so what I'd like to do is have a facilitated discussion about the items that I can talk about, because I have good information, but we haven't met as a board. Instead of rehashing a budget that really, it doesn't make sense to talk about anymore. So if that's the direction of the board, I'm good with doing that. Looking for head nods.
I'm a little confused about what it is you're talking about.
So which budget are you going
We
to?
had a budget in June that
You're
does
gonna
not
talk
say
about this
draft.
one?
I want to talk about that.
Oh,
If
good.
you guys are good with that, let's do it.
Good with it.
Okay. So I want to talk about a little bit about why there's a discrepancy in the budget. The school, finished out the last few months of the year under a budget freeze. And we did that due to the number of students, unexpected students that moved into the district, that we were outsourcing to Marshwood for cost. So to cover that cost, we froze the budget, and we weren't buying anything. We were really down to bare minimum. And so all of the maintenance items that we had built in and planned for in this year's budget, we set aside and not planning to go. When the final bills came in from Marshwood, there was a significant savings in special education, about $250,000. So the school board was able to act fairly rapidly to expend some of the 250,000 on items that were planned to be spent for in the budget, but that we had delayed or put off because of the freeze. So that's the list of items that I provided. We can talk about that list as well. And so from a budgeting perspective, I'm not able to talk about the end of the year because we don't have a final budget, but it does look like, after all the expenditures, well, about $125,000 fund balance. Of that, 50,000 will be allocated to the special education fund that the town approved, and 50,000 to the building. So that'll leave about 25,000 or so that will come back to the town that won't be expended. There is a contingency, I've used that word a few times tonight, amount that the school can keep, but I don't know what that percentage is, and I don't.
Quite a bit larger than 25,000.
Is it? So the town's probably not getting any money back.
Well, no, it would logically go to fund balance. It's not gonna be spent on wild
Right.
things like a end-of-year
Correct.
party.
Correct.
It's gonna go to
Yeah.
fund balance.
Right. So,
Just assigned fund balance.
Correct.
Not unassigned.
right, and I don't have the specifics of that because we haven't.
Fund balance.
But yeah, so the good news is, despite the fact that we had significant increases of our students going to Marshwood and significant increase in regular education going, we were able to realize some savings in the special education side, and we were able to to wrap up some maintenance items that we've been wanting to wrap up, and end the year on a positive note. The school board has not discussed yet going into next year. The last time we met in June, the start of fiscal year 17, the budget is frozen. That was our last direction from the school because we were looking at expending a significant amount of money on regular education. So we're gonna have to reevaluate and take a look now that the special education costs have changed, and to see if we're gonna change things, and maybe lift a little bit of that freeze going into FY17. But at the moment, the budget is very much in flux because all the bills haven't been paid. So all the money is still out there. So with that, she has it up big, so I'll just point at hers. A couple of big items, right? The first line, regular education, $173,000 increase. That is all for additional students going to Marshwood.
I'm sorry, how many?
I want to say it's 17, but it's an easy number to provide, but we had planned on some. And so there's 17, and I would say half are completely, we were stunned to see that many. Sure.
So the increases you had for last year's budget that ended in June,
Yes,
those were not budgeted appropriately in the 16-17 budget.
Correct.
Some were, but some were not.
correct,
So you have that, but you also have the unknown
correct,
of what's going to go forward as well.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so the good news, right, real good news is I would say families are moving into town with students, with school-age students. So that's a good thing for the town, but it's a hard budget item when it's
Financial
$10,000,
disaster.
per student.
Yeah.
Instead of regular education students.
In that, we were fortunate this year, for the second line item, that we were able to realize some special education savings. Go ahead, whoever wants to.
Oh, well, I was going to ask about this $284,000. Well, first of all, if anybody's looking at this thing, this represents the budget to June 30th plus payables. So it's sort of like their best guess
Yes.
estimate
Correct.
of end of year. Now, you saved $284,212.95 in special ed, which is quite a bit.
Significant.
Yes. In fact, it even covers the surprise students that
It
suddenly
does.
showed up.
It does.
Plus a little. I guess the question I have is, the planning process the school used before was, if I could guess and assume, was based on historical data.
So that,
It's sort of like, this is what we used to spend and this is the students
So-
we have.
so I don't want to be sarcastic in this response, but with this being the first year at Marshwood and having it be an à la carte cost, it was really a guess. Right, so we took all of the services that we know we provide, so special education went through all the IEPs and said, these are the services that we use, here's our best guess. And then they costed it out using the formula and came up with a guess. We were fortunate that we had a few expenses in special ed, and careful how I say that, but I think you can reason what that means, that we saved some significant amount of money. So, yeah, the budgeting process for special education in an à la carte scenario is very difficult because special ed services change throughout the year. As the IEPs are reviewed and as those meetings happen, they usually happen, depending on the IEP, they could be monthly, they could be bi-monthly or quarterly. Some of them are only annual, but those services change all the time. So on the more expensive end of the services, you might end up with a huge inflow in the beginning of the year and fall back at the end of the year, or something very similar to what we saw this year. But prior to this year, all of that was included in the cost. We didn't see spikes because of special ed. So now we have to account for these spikes. 283,000 and change, 284,000 and change, is a high spike, and the school board is going to be analyzing that.
Well, I mean, I do recall it being said, MSA 35 is going to use an à la carte system, and we have no idea what this is going to do. It could explode on us. And it turns out, it's a more cost-effective method, based on this.
Based on
Maybe.
on this budget.
Let's be careful about that, maybe.
you know,
It's based on,
we
Student
saved
need.
money based off of what we budgeted for next year. But you could have one student placed in the district that could eat that entire amount.
But
exactly.
based on historical data, which is, this is your historical data, it appears that à la carte is not the
So if you're,
horrible thing that would.
if you're willing to make that assumption on 1 year's worth of data, you go right ahead. I'm not willing to do that. Yeah. Now, you want to talk in 2 or 3 years, especially when the transition's complete to Marshwood, I think that we'll have a better idea of that. Because you're not going down a wrong path. Possibly it could be a savings, sure. Because our regular tuition base is less than it was if as we're paying as part of the area agreement with Summers. Sure. But with the special education in flux, you call it à la carte, right? Who knows? In Somersworth, when we were in the area agreement, it was a known fee. So every student was going to cost us X number of dollars. So this is just a bit of an unknown, and it's going to take some time to adjust. Fortunately, this year it worked out. I've got questions all over.
Well, I'm just saying, let's revisit this in 5 years.
Sure.
And then we'll have some real historical data that we can look at over a 5-year period, rather than 1 year that's way too, that's a flash in the pan, so that's.
Kim,
Was there any reduction in the number of special ed students, or was it all just costs?
It was actually a combination of both.
So there was some
There
reductions.
was reductions in the number of students in the program, and there was reductions in services.
Were those reductions people who were on IEPs that went off IEPs, or they left?
So I don't have the number of students who completed an IEP. I don't know that. I do know that there were special ed students that left.
I mean, out of our system.
Out of our district, yes, out of our.
Dennis,
Gonna say there. How many kids are we gonna have at Marshwood this year in September? What's the enrollment?
I have no
Between
idea.
middle school and high, maybe you can have.
Yeah.
We'll have those projections probably at our August meeting.
Oh, okay, so you don't.
We- and but it's basically what we ended I would say it's what we ended the year on,
In some as well.
and then there might be,
So.
that's a good point, it will be.
Did I say Marshwood? I meant some as well.
Oh, you meant Somersworth? Oh, we'll be about 25 less than what we ended the year on,
Okay.
25 fewer students, because we're down to 2
25,
classes.
Suzanne,
Well, this is probably really a school board question. It's not actually a question, so but the other variable that I just see all by myself is that there's also possibly a difference in how Somersworth manages and identifies special ed students and how Marshwood does the same. And so that's another, so that may have some historical trend ability to it. It may be hard to identify that particular trend when we know that one kid can just skew things completely out of proportion. But I think there's also the possibility that there could be a difference in philosophies or those kinds of things.
am I not correct that the SAU monitors Marshwood to see if they're in compliance and therefore the services should be comparable
So,
that if they were in New Hampshire?
right, so the SAU and the Rollinsford grade school, we had some split between the position. 50% in Rollinsford, 50%. It might have been a little bit off on those percentages, but at Marshwood working with the students. So the students are required to meet, or the IEPs in Maine are required to meet the New Hampshire standard. So all of the services, all of the students are receiving all of the required services that they're required to, right, and to meet their needs. But the point on trending, 100% solid. There's the academics at Marshwood are different. So the classes, right, the types of classes, the types of programs, and the types of extracurricular things are different than Somersworth. So that also can play into what's available, right? So a lot of my son, for
Are we still talking about special ed?
Special ed, yes, strictly on special ed. So my son, for example, has occupational therapy things. And so there are certain programs that benefit that, and if he's in certain extracurricular activities, he doesn't need an occupational therapist to assist him, to spend one-on-one time with him. So there's opportunities for that in Marshwood, or maybe there's lack of opportunities in Marshwood, right? Depending on the student's needs. So that's why it is a good idea to look at, I was saying 3 years just because of our transition time to remove all of the students from Summersworth. But Bill's right, our initial contract with them is 6.
Happens once in a while.
And so, when we go to renegotiate the contract with Marshwood, I would hope that we have some trends, some results to look at as we move forward.
Denise?
Yeah, I would just seriously caution you about your special ed line and not to be too serious about reducing it based on what you saw last year. I think that, again, with experience, that one student could throw your budget off completely. And I think a formula that you use this year to determine it is the formula you should use for the next 5 years until you know what you're getting into and your whole student population is in that school system. But that's just kind of,
Absolutely.
with experience, I caution you, don't reduce it too quickly.
Yeah, and so I want to be careful that, so we have not discussed this.
Mhm.
So the board met to do an emergency expenditure type
Mhm.
of scenario,
Mhm.
but we have not met to talk about what we're going to change and do and evaluate.
Kim, you were about to say.
Were there any new special ed students added?
Absolutely.
There
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, so there was in and out, absolutely.
But that happens on a year-to-year basis.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a normal.
Month to
That's a normal, month to month,
Right.
sometimes.
This year, it was multiple times a month, actually, to be serious.
Talk about the rents.
So if you want to go down the reds, so let's do the big ones, so I'd like to tie in the additional sped transportation. You can assume that there were additional students or scenarios where there's an increase in students. With that type of increase, you could reason that there was a student being brought somewhere, further in the district, right? So, the reason I'm saying that is students, but that wouldn't be included in our normal transportation route, right? Because we have that budgeted and planned for. So that's a special education line that's kind of crazy. The equipment repairs, you're on the draft budget. Those are the expenses that we expended at the end of the year. The other ones are fairly small. I'll talk about any one we want.
Custodial equipment?
That's part of the expenditures.
Yeah.
And the breakout was provided, but not what line they went to.
Yeah,
So I'll have that for you when we do our
Talking
end of
about
year.
this?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That these items, whatever they were, because there's two different numbers, there's what Kate wanted, and then there's this paper tape total.
Correct.
Which one of them went into the budget under
So
payables?
the prioritized list was what we went forward with authorizing, and I believe the list was,
Yeah, the
I
thing
missed
to,
that
the thing to
name,
remember is that
apologies.
security cameras, we had a matching grant, and the staff managed to match that grant with service time by getting training on certain things. And so we had to expend only less than $1,000 on getting the security cameras installed with the matching grant we received from Homeland Security. So that cost, it says done, it's not included in the ticker, the ticker numbers.
I apologize, I missed that meeting when they expended the money, so I had to go through minutes. And Judy, which Judy does a great job.
Did you have an excuse for missing the meeting?
He certainly did.
I did, on the 30th, I was in
Someplace else.
Texas.
Essentially, the school board voted to allow the district to expend up to $90,000 to cover all the things on the list, because these numbers came from a while ago. So that was the motion, we passed it at that meeting.
Are there any other questions regarding the school's budget information?
No, the only question I have is, was that meeting on the 30th noticed?
It was indeed, yes.
Okay, it didn't go through email though.
It was I know it was posted here and at the, library and at the, post office.
Okay.
Are there, yes, Kim?
I'll ask the question, even though Alan said he doesn't know the answer, maybe Judy does. Other support increase?
The other support, if I remember right, it was contracted services, but I don't remember what they were.
I'm sorry, what line? Sorry.
2190?
Yeah. It's in deficit 78,
It
85.
says additional
2190.
services on the side.
Yes, it had to do with something else. There were, other support, it wasn't the audit. Actually, it might have been, anyway, I might have it noted in here, let me see, 1190.
So I apologize, I should have been more prepared to talk about that line, but my plan is to have a full-on brief for the committee when the budget is finalized. So like I did last year, I'll write it up so everybody can have the complete write-up ahead of it. And I'll make sure we get all the rest.
Is the maintenance of grounds and equipment repairs in that list?
Yeah, yep.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The maintenance of grounds, line item, equipment repairs, that's that list. Some,
Oh, maintenance of grounds.
Right.
Equipment repairs, yes.
So all respect.
That's on the wish list probably.
It is, there's a fence.
The
on there,
fence,
right.
the mop sinks, hot water in the annex and so forth.
So it's really a split between.
The answer on 2190, if you look at the detail, had to do with adaptive physical education. And again, it had to, so it's a type of special ed that happened, so we had to, and that is a contracted service that we use, so.
Yes.
asbestos removal?
Yeah.
Any, no plans in this surplus to do anything with that?
Well, the asbestos
Was that warrant article?
has
That was
been
warrant
removed,
article.
yes, and
It's
it's
done.
done.
Okay.
Woo!
Yeah.
No, no.
Wow.
That part's
We won't
gonna
see that
be
warrant
five
article again.
more.
I don't know.
Is there gonna be any more?
I don't either, I've heard this before.
And I know people have heard that before, and I would like just to say, Alan isn't even aware of this yet. I was, they actually did a full inspection of the school and removed asbestos that was remaining in the kitchen.
I knew there was
Because,
some there.
because the first time it had been removed, they didn't move the counters to remove the asbestos from under the counters. That has now been done. We are feeling good, but not 100% confident, because we've all heard this before, but.
So I guess we can say this is subject to finding some more. Right?
That
That'd be a
sounds
fair
great.
statement?
That sounds great.
Yes.
No, is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement that we have no knowledge now of any asbestos remaining in the school.
Okay.
And we've had a few inspections. There's been how many different inspections?
Oh, that's right.
So,
Engineering inspections, we've had
Right,
like
so-
6 in the last 2 years,
right, so we went through a decent run-through when we were discussing what to do with the building with the architects and with some engineering folks. So the school's been gone through a couple of times.
And they keep missing it.
I can't speak for that. I have no idea why.
There you go.
Missing it?
Pick up the rug.
Kitchen per se.
It was known that there were, oh, all right, yeah, okay. Who knows?
If anyone has any ideas on where asbestos might be in the school, I'm sure the school would love
It's
to.
everywhere. I can tell you that right now. It's everywhere.
But no, it's exciting to see the maintenance work in the school getting done. We were able to do some of the budget, we were able to do some of the warrant articles, and the school should open up and be on the positive side.
Okay.
I do have one other question though. It has to do with the renting out of, is it Funtime University? Is there a set amount that is paid, that university pays to the school?
Revenue.
Yeah, is there a revenue coming in from
I don't have-
before and after school?
I think if you look at the revenue, the classroom rental,
So it's the $2,000?
I believe so. We need to find
Yeah, I
out.
can't speak to that though, because they do other things, so I don't know if the whole entire 2,000 is to that. But are you going somewhere with that question?
No, I was just curious if I just personally believe it's a little on the low side.
Understood.
Is that all inclusive?
Yeah. They have, they don't only have a classroom, they have the run of the school.
Right, so Clinton University, I would say, is a benefit to the town as well. And so, you know, it may be on the low side, it's definitely something that we can talk about at the school board. But if you look at the service that it's providing, it's a good thing. It's
Oh,
an
yes,
inexpensive
yes.
after-school program for the students in the school, so it's students in the community.
I can give you historical data based on when I was on the board, that they do pay rent. And it was reduced because it performed a service that was beneficial to the town people.
Yeah, it went from 4 to 2,
I don't know what 40 to mean, what are you talking about?
4,000 to 2,000, I think.
I can't give you the numbers, I can just tell you that they do pay rent, and I don't think that ever changed.
No, I just was wondering where it showed, if it was the classroom rental.
It probably is, because I'm not sure you rent any more of those classrooms for that kind of money.
Yeah,
It's
no,
probably
not for
where
that
it
kind
is,
of money,
yeah.
yeah.
But-
I just wanted to be clear, you know, it might be 1,500 and 500 comes
right.
from something else, and I don't want to be held to
Yeah.
2,000, that's.
Are there any other questions we want to throw at poor Alan?
Thank you.
Pose to Alan, would that be better?
No, I'll take it. As easy as Dennis got off. Sorry.
I believe we have concluded our, yes,
We didn't say library budget?
The library.
That's
that's
part of the
in
town.
October, I believe. Oh,
Part
you
of the
mean
town.
quarterly?
Quarterly, yeah.
Actually,
Part of the town.
well, yes, it is part of the
Well,
town,
it's
but
on
it's part of the car.
It's on the, it's in here.
Yeah.
Is it,
We should ask one of the trustees.
They're in town
I'm
budget.
trying to walk a thin line here. The last trustee meeting I went to, there were like 53% of the year, and they were pretty much on target with everything except the person they hired to do their minutes seems to be a little high. And as a trustee, I expressed some concern, but I don't want to do them, so.
Kim, it's on page 10.
But they're no different than any
But all
other
it
department.
is, all it
in
does
this-
is show just a
budget.
total,
Right. It's no
and then
different
how
than
much
any
the
other
director gets
department in the
paid.
Right,
budget.
are
You
you
don't have
asking
police
for
or
the
fire or
detail?
any of those to come in.
Wait a minute, are you asking for the people?
No, I'm asking for the line item breakdown that we get from all the departments.
Okay.
Which
Well,
we
the
were
expenditure
getting
is
last
in
year.
there, right?
Well, the trustees, I don't, the trustees oversee the detail operations of the library. So, I mean, there's a relationship between the town and the library that's RSA controlled. And so, I'm not gonna be able to articulate this well, but I think the town is doing what it is, reasonable for it to do as far as, reporting the expenditures. So,
Just last year was a different process where they actually submitted, which was nice to see. I'm just wondering, have we decided that we're not gonna do that anymore?
So
the board didn't decide anything.
yeah, I actually, so now, I remember going through, I don't know why we did it, but we did. There was a printout at every one of the meetings that we,
Do you want quarterly reports from the library?
I'm not asking.
Detail?
We got it last year.
Okay. I can send you monthly financial reports and monthly activity reports, if you like. I'm actually stepping out of bounds here as a trustee, but I'm going to take I happen to have them in possession, therefore I can send them to you.
I think we're taking a stand on treating one department within the entire town budget differently than others, so I just want to put that on file there.
So, I 100% on board with that. The only thing I'd add is, the library does come through as two line items, the library and the library director, where if you look at the police department, it is
Exactly.
broken out, and so, I understand the budget line.
Because we don't manage that detail level.
Right.
So we provide funding when the library asks us for a dispersal of funds. According to RSAs, they
They do.
are allowed to manage that. So the town is reporting what it knows of library spending.
So maybe something should go to the library trust and ask if they wouldn't mind, as they have done in the past.
All of the library trustees' reports, minutes, and usage reports should be filed here at the town. If you wish, we can send them to you from January 1st onward, and we can have them as part of the quarterly thing. Bill?
I have a recollection where we discussed this in the past, and we were getting them twice a year, right? Okay, so I have not lost my mind, that's good. And we would get them twice a year because of the way it was run or budgeted or something, and we would get the more detailed report twice a year. So, that they were sent to us. So personally, I'm fine with what we have today, and if we get the twice a year report, I'm good with that. I mean, it's what,
But were
70?
they required to come in and present that, or was it just sent to us?
I think it was sent to us.
Okay,
And-
that's
and
acceptable,
we usually
but
had somebody,
having them come in.
Sony was usually here and was able to discuss it, but I don't think it was, I think she came, I don't think we required her to come, was my recollection. So it was kind of, you know, she came, and if we had questions, we would answer, she would answer them, but, so.
Suzanne?
I'll try to dig up the last copy.
Yeah.
Well, I would
Then
just-
we can keep the format.
I would just compare it to the cemetery trustees. I mean, we don't break down the cemetery trustees' detailed operations. They present a bill to us for a purchase order, and it just comes out of their one line. So,
Do we, and that's funded by us.
Yeah.
Yes. Just, the practice was different last year, that's what I'm saying.
Well, we'd like to get into a consistency approach. I'm more than glad to send you they're done monthly. I'm more than glad to send them to you.
I don't think monthly, but, you know, if not quarterly, a couple times a year.
I like if it was twice a year, I remember doing it,
Yeah.
but twice a year sounds
If we meet quarterly, why don't we give you the most recent quarter statement? That always does a year-to-date, and you'll have it. If you need more detail, the library trustees will be more than glad to provide it to you. Honest to God, I guarantee it.
Yeah, because if you look, the library is actually coming in to us in November,
For their annual.
the annual. Not for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's their
For next
proposed
year.
budget
That's
for
their
the next,
proposed
yeah,
budget.
for 2017, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So before that, they weren't scheduled to come in, but some sort of paperwork just kind of,
Okay, so for
A
the
refresher.
October meeting, which I believe is the next meeting, I'll be sure that you
26.
get the library data, and I'll give it to you, quarterly basis rather than every month, because it's just cumulative anyway. And I'll send it to you.
Sounds good.
Yes,
The minutes from the April 27th that were approved, they're not on the website.
they're not.
I didn't find them, so could I get a copy of them?
Oh, no. Yes.
That's why I didn't vote, because I never saw them.
Oh, yes. We've got to work out some smoother way than
I
sending
suggested
it
a
to this.
smoother way. You didn't like the security implications.
Well, if you want to give me the password and you clearly understand and put it on the record
It's
that if
not
I
a
get.
password, it's just an access.
No,
It's an access.
I can attach that D drive
We
to
can
my
I
drive,
tell you
but it's
what.
read-only.
We can talk about, this is an implementation detail that the rest of the group doesn't need to get concerned with.
Okay,
How does that sound?
okay. I will send you the April 27th minutes. And the schedule too, so that there will be no excuse for not showing up in October.
I think that was in the 13 minutes.
Yes.
Could be, well,
That was
it
the
got slightly
tentative
revised
schedule.
because cemetery got moved around and there were some other things. Okay. Are there any other matters which may properly come before the budget committee tonight? Yes, Suzanne?
Well, I wanted to bring something to the board's attention. And-
Committee.
Yes,
We're a
sorry, the
committee,
budget
right?
committee, yes, correct, sorry about that. To the budget committee's attention, and that is that we are examining the road agent's position in light of whether or not it is properly an exempt position as opposed to a non-exempt position. In other words, is it properly exempt from overtime, or should we
Yes.
be paying the road agent overtime dollars? So we're examining that, looking at that. And it has some implications, of course, if in fact it should be non-exempt.
The new rules on the Department of Labor do not take effect until December 1st.
Understood. If you look at the current rules, however, it may be that we have not been managing that position correctly for a while.
I read the regulations and according to my reading of it, yes, he is salaried, he's exempt. Because he meets all the requirements.
He doesn't have enough supervisory people under him.
Pardon?
He doesn't have, he's not supervising a sufficient number of FTE.
All he needs is 2.
You count them up. Where is it? Where does he have that number of employees?
Well, doesn't he have the
F-
transcripts there?
FTEs, they have to be 80 hours.
Full-time.
Full-time, sorry, I didn't mean to name drop, full-time equivalents, right? So it's not just 2 bodies, it's 2 full-time equivalents that
And
he
I
has to
understand
supervise.
the bodies and equivalents. I'm not laughing at you, I understand. But as I read it, he is exempt. Until December 1st, and then he would not be, he would be non-exempt at his current salary.
I would argue that even the current rules are, but in any event, we're going to have an issue,
Right.
probably. So we're looking at ways to think about that.
I think the State Department of Labor can answer that question very well.
They have.
And what did they say? Did they give you a declaratory decision?
Well, it sounds like he's non-exempt.
It sounds like,
sounds like-
that's not the same as he isn't.
Well, you can,
I'd rather have them say it sounds like and let us fix it.
Yeah,
Rather than
exactly.
have them turn around and say, you screwed up and you should have been and now you owe them and we're gonna whack you and so on and so forth, so.
So do you know the steps to take to make him salaried and?
he would need to supervise more people and have an increase in salary. Both of those would have to come.
Both?
Both.
And the implication of making him hourly
He has a lot of overtime. It would be expensive.
in the winter,
Yeah.
for sure.
But we're exploring some things and hoping that the financial impact on the town is really not a huge one, and that perhaps there's some advantages to what some of the plans that we're exploring for the town.
So if I understand, you got a document that told you that these positions have to be looked at.
No, what we got were the DOL new laws,
DOL stands for?
US Department of Labor
Okay,
laws
Yeah.
that are coming into effect.
December 1st.
okay.
Yep, December 1st. So it prompted me to call, well, actually I checked in with Michelle Small,
Mm-hmm,
who's our resident expert,
mm-hmm.
and she gave me the US DOL, US Department of Labor contact to review this with. So I reviewed it at length. There are 3 ways to get yourself exempt. Executive, professional, and administrative. The only one that, where we stand a chance of making him exempt is in the executive. And that's where he needs a salary of a certain level, which is increasing, and a number of, a full-time equivalency of 2 people that he's supervising. The other one of them requires advanced degrees, the other one is, they're not applicable. The only one that's remotely applicable is the executive, where he heads a department, has hiring, firing, at least to some
Or
degree.
at least he recommends.
Yes, at least he recommends. It's the number of full-time equivalent employees that he supervises and his salary.
This this must be going to affect many towns our size, I would assume.
A lot of them, if you look at the, I did this several years back, I looked at road agents, not heads of, the road, a lot of them are hourly. And they have budgets of 60,000, 70,000.
Yeah.
Well, the reason it came into being is because private business were abusing people by calling them managers, something horrible.
Understood, this, I understand, I don't have any complaint about that, but, you know, we need to make sure that the town is compliant because, you know, it can be expensive to be out of compliance. So that's just something to chew on, and we're actively looking at approaches to this.
Dennis,
What happens if he gets hurt? Not, right on, but he goes down, with a back injury or something. Who's gonna replace him? Like, it's on the back.
That's one of the things that we're trying to
I mean, that happens.
ameliorate. So we're thinking we can do something that will help in that situation as well as allow us to keep him salaried. So I mean, I can't, the board has not made any decisions, the board hasn't had even discussions. I mean, I have been exploring some options with Jeff, with, talking to some people out in other realms about what we can do to fix this. So the board has not really had like a full-fledged discussion. We know we have an issue, we know we're gonna have to address it, but other than that, but that's an issue that, yeah, he's taking a 2-week vacation starting Monday, which he's not had a vacation since I've been here. So Chief Ducharme is gonna be the first line of defense for emergency situations, because there's no other being. So the town has some, risk involved in that, and we have risk in a number of situations like that, and we're not gonna exist without any risk because we're too small, right? We're just too small, we can't effectively have perfect backups in every situation. Well, we're thinking perhaps we could do something in the highway department road agent thing that would maybe help with that situation.
if I may suggest, several years ago, probably 5 or 6, an idea was floated about doing a cooperative agreement with the supervisor of the water and sewer plant, because the type of complexity of duty is similar. Not the same, but similar.
I don't think I followed, so.
Having the superintendent at water or sewer plant
Oh, you mean as a backup?
as having a relationship with the town, so that you might be able to ask that person to take on some road agent functions in a situation where it's necessary. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
It made sense at the time because
Yeah.
the guy who was the superintendent this guy knew everything. He knew how to plow roads, he knew how to fix sewer lines, he knew everything.
Speaking of common roads, I mean, that's the other kind of difficulty that we face is the lack of drivers with CDLs who are available for seasonal kinds of work. So that's, we'll figure something out, hopefully, but that's a
I throw that idea to
Yeah, no, I
you
appreciate
as a
that.
concept,
appreciate it.
potentially
Yeah,
to
that's a good
explore.
idea.
Are there any other matters which may properly come before the budget committee tonight? I move there. Do not see.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Nancy, seconded by Bill Irving. You vote by standing up and walking out.
All right.
I have a thought, that's just like